few months ago, I talked about 5 running backs that may have been forgotten. Since then, one of the players I discussed in that video has claimed that the NFL is scripted. So I decided to make a part 2 and tell their stories on their rise to the top of the NFL. And hopefully make some of you guys reminisce a little bit about the NFL back in the 2010s. Here are 3 more running backs that you may have forgotten dominated the 2010s. We are starting this video off strong with a good example of what I'm after in these types of videos. Justin Forsett had a solid career, spending time with 6 teams in the league. An undersized back who went through a lot and ended up having a nice run. In college, Forsett played for California and spent a good portion of his tenure behind Marshawn Lynch. In 2005, Forsett rushed for 999 yards and 6 touchdowns as a sophomore. In 2007, he had his first taste of the starting role, and he had an outstanding season. More than 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns, which was second in the Pac-10, behind only Jonathan Stewart. Forsett was selected to the Pac-10 first team and was ready to make the next step. Despite having a good college career, Justin Forsett would have to wait until the 7th round to hear his name called, as the Seattle Seahawks selected the 5'8" back out of Cal. The 233rd pick was waived by the Seahawks early on in his rookie season, claimed by Indy, who then waived him not long after, so Forsett rejoined the Seahawks on their practice squad. He was a part of a backfield which featured Julius Jones and Seahawks legend and Hall of Famer Edgerrin James. After James was released shortly after, they would rely on Forsett as the number 2 back behind Julius Jones, who would later get injured and open the door for Forsett, who made the most of his first chance in the NFL. 600 plus yards and 4 touchdowns as a 24-year-old with 350 more yards receiving. Year 2 was another good season with Seattle, over 500 yards, but Forsett would battle injury and get bounced from team to team after that, before eventually landing in Baltimore in 2014. When coming off a foot injury, Forsett had not only a career year, but one of the most surprising seasons in recent history. Over 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns would lead to a Pro Bowl appearance. All of this came from signing a 1-year deal as a 3rd stringer. But due to injuries and suspensions, Forsett ended up being the guy in the Ravens' backfield. He would re-sign on a 3-year, $9 million contract and have another good season, despite getting injured in Week 11. Forsett was then released in the offseason and would never return to form. In 2017, Justin Forsett retired as a member of the Baltimore Ravens. From a 7th round pick to a solid back isn't bad. Having the breakout season and getting the money which he used for his post-career venture, which I'll mention a little later in the video, was a huge plus for Forsett, who made the most of his limited opportunities. Jonathan Stewart. He was the polar opposite of Justin Forsett. 13th overall in the same draft, 2008. His college career was outstanding through and through. An electric player for Oregon who, as a true freshman, was a great kick returner. As a sophomore, he would have just shy of 1,000 yards on the ground, and in his final season, he rushed for 1,700 yards and 11 touchdowns, finishing his Ducks career with 33 total touchdowns and just shy of 2,900 yards in just 3 seasons. He would be drafted early by the Carolina Panthers, and he would continue for 10 years to be a massive part of their offense, starting his NFL career with back-to-back 10-touchdown seasons for the Panthers, including his only 1,000-yard season in 2009. When healthy, he stayed consistent. 2011, he was a huge part of the passing game with over 400 receiving yards to notch over 1,000 total scrimmage yards for a 24-year-old. On August 10th, 2012, Stewart signed a 5-year deal worth $37.8 million, with $23 million guaranteed to remain a Panther for the next 5 years. Sadly, this would be when injuries began to affect his career. 2012 and 2013 were unhealthy seasons for Jonathan Stewart. However, he would be able to bounce back in 2014 with over 800 rushing yards. 2015 would be the year that Stewart made his first and only Pro Bowl appearance, after nearly notching 1,000 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. The next couple of years were more of the same for Stewart, consistent, before in 2018 he would be released from the Panthers as the franchise's all-time leading rusher. Stewart would then join the New York Giants, but sadly, he would get injured once again and never return to the NFL. A true Panthers legend, after 10 years, he would sign a one-day contract and retire with the team. He was one of the most underappreciated backs of the 2010s, and it was a treat watching him growing up. Remember how I mentioned Justin Forsett's business venture earlier? He was one of the founders of the shower pill, which was a body wipe for when you need to take a shower but can't. It was featured on the show Shark Tank, and Jonathan Stewart was actually one of the original investors in the company. So that's where the two of these backs are right now. The next player is one of my favorite of all time. Sadly, injuries would cut the career short of one of the most entertaining running backs that I have ever seen play. Danny Woodhead was an undrafted free agent who made a name for himself while a member of the New England Patriots. Danny Woodhead grew up in Nebraska, and he was a high school star, not only in football, but also in track and field, basketball, and soccer. Woodhead went to Chadron State for college, a Division II school, who at the time that he joined the team had produced just 4 NFL players. So naturally, he set all the records and was absolutely amazing in college. But since it was Division II, he didn't have the NFL hype, not even earning an invitation to the Combine. At his pro day, Woodhead ran a 4.33 40 and had a very impressive athletic showing, one of the better ones that we've ever seen from a back. He was signed by the New York Jets but spent his entire rookie year on IR. He would end up on the New England Patriots early on in 2010 and blow everybody away. Over 500 yards and 5 total touchdowns on the ground. He did it all. A returner, a third down back, a receiver, and an elite running back. He earned a 2-year extension with the Patriots, and number 39 kept producing. 2011 saw Danny break out as a returner, and he would also have another 500 scrimmage yards. Growing up watching him was an absolute treat. I will never forget the 2012 season, specifically a matchup between the eventual NFC champion San Francisco 49ers and the Patriots. Woodhead had 2 touchdowns and carried the Patriots in that game, keeping it close. As a running back, Woodhead and Brady's connection was absolutely insane. He was in a backfield that included a young Stephen Ridley and Shane Vereen. Woodhead was the go-to guy on third down, the Patriot player, the guy that has been recycled so many times in New England. Whether it was Kevin Falk, James White, Danny Woodhead, Dion Lewis, or anybody else, the Patriots have always had that guy out of the backfield to catch screen passes, a smaller guy, and Woodhead was one of the best to do it in the Pats uniform. Woodhead had 76 carries for 301 yards and 4 touchdowns to go along with 40 receptions for just shy of 450 yards and 3 touchdowns in his final season as the Patriot. March 13th, 2013 was the first time that sports broke my little heart, and man, I wish it was the last. Danny Woodhead joined the San Diego Chargers on a 2-year deal. He was a great fit for that offense. First season was one to remember for Danny Woodhead. He led all NFL running backs with 6 touchdown receptions, and he was second with 76 catches for 605 yards in the regular season. He also had over 100 carries for over 400 yards, and he was a game changer on that team and had a career season as a result. In 2014, his season ended after just 3 games. In 2015, he would come back better than ever. 750 receiving yards and 330 on the ground. 9 total touchdowns. Danny Woodhead was so consistent when he was healthy, it wasn't even funny. But then in 2016, Danny Woodhead would tear his ACL in week 2. He recovered and came back, this time as a member of the Baltimore Ravens. But on the first drive of his first game with the Ravens in week 1, he would once again suffer a terrible injury, this time to his hamstring. He would miss half the season and came back, but really wasn't the same. That was it for Danny Woodhead. After 10 incredible seasons defining every odd possible for a professional athlete, the size, the odds, D2 to the NFL, Division II to the Super Bowl, and being an undrafted free agent, his story is so inspirational. He ended up becoming an inspiration to so many people, including myself. He would retire in 2018. Now, Danny Woodhead is pursuing a golf career, reaching the qualifying rounds for the US Open in 2022, with the goal of one day reaching the Masters tournament, still overcoming the odds even long after retiring. All these guys had great peaks in their career. Some went from the first round, and others went all the way from D2 to the Super Bowl. And that's just the beauty of football. Once you get into the NFL, everybody's on an equal playing field. And it really is whoever works hardest and every man for himself at that point. And it all depends on how bad you want it. This video was one of my favorites ever to make. And I still have enough names on this list for a part 3 and maybe even more. So if you guys would like to see it, please let me know. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on this video. It'll let me know if you want another in this series. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.